Good morning. Jeff Light here with our daily look behind the news from the UT Newsroom. This morning we're speaking with investigative reporter Morgan Cook. Morgan, you had a pretty big story in today's paper, the culmination of reporting that you've been doing over the last several years about Duncan Hunter's finances. So I guess to start, just tell us what that story is, and then I'd like to get into how you were able to dig it out and what that process is like.
Okay, so the story is that Duncan Hunter's political campaign spent its money in ways that we don't typically see, sort of remarkable, kind of unusual ways that were not clearly campaign related and appeared to be questionable in terms of personal use. And personal use is illegal because it's to prevent undue influence by donors, right? You know, we help you, perhaps you'll help us kind of relationship.
So if I'm a congressperson, I'm supposed to be paid by the federal government to conduct my business in an above-board manner and not to take illegal payments on the side to advance my lifestyle or my friends that could influence me in using my powers inappropriately. And then that's what Hunter is accused of doing.
That is what he is accused of doing, yes.
And what's the extent of the charges against him and his wife?
They are facing 60 counts of federal crimes, including wire fraud, conspiracy, wire fraud, conspiracy, and falsifying documents, campaign finance violations.
And essentially, in reading your story, what the allegation is, the Hunters would be short on money. There were bouncing checks, or maybe that's not correct. They had, well, they did. They had overdraft notices.
They had overdrafts, yeah.
Their credit card balance was super high. They would need some money, and they would come up with a lie to tell their campaign staff that this was a just say it's a campaign expense, and they would dip into the till and take the money. That's the essential allegation, right?
Right. Yeah.
And what does Hunter say about this?
Well, he says that he didn't know. Well, those who are speaking for him in response to the indictment are saying he didn't know about these expenditures. They were mostly done by his wife, Margaret, who is also charged in the indictment, and that it was kind of all her thing, and he didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, and I saw his father saying similar things.
Right, and also that, you know, this is unfair that the U.S. Attorney's Office, Department of Justice, is politically motivated, and they're, you know, out to get him.
So the Hunters are trying to portray it as something that was like technical things along the margins, sort of picky, minutia, you know. And yet, to me, what struck me was their finances seem to be very unusual. Like
for a congressman, especially.
The congressman makes $170,000 a year. They get a per diem. They have their health insurance paid. And yet, this family can't. I mean, they don't have any money.
It appears that they do not have any money. It appears that their financial situation was
like they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Pretty tight, yeah. And you know, every family makes their own financial choices. We don't know, you know, the reason or how they spent their money or what their needs were. But we do know that they had a sort of a tight situation, and that they turned allegedly to the campaign account to cover that.
Okay, so we'll find out in court. I mean, it's, you know, the Hunter side is all, this is all a bunch of petty, picky issues. The government side is you improperly took $250,000. There's a big gap between those two versions of the truth. So tell me now, like, how did you get on this story to begin with?
Well, one day, the FEC, in April 2016, the FEC,
Federal Election
Commission, yes, sent a letter to Duncan Hunter's campaign saying, we see you have these 60 768 charges for video games to a video game company on your campaign account, and also a school, Christian Unified School, where his children attend. And they also say personal expense to be reimbursed, or something to that effect. And so the FEC was saying, can you give us a little more information about this? This looks very unusual. We need, to know what's going on. Personal use is illegal. And so we saw that and we wrote about it. And then we just wanted to make sure that it was, just kind of a one-off situation. So we started going back through campaign reports and just found more unusual charges: oral surgery, a garage door, and things that you just don't see typically on other campaigns' spending reports.
Yeah, and then
they were, they were questionable.
Yeah, and then you did a little more than that. I know in some cases you'd see a charge. You'd call the vendor or the store and say, do you guys sell this kind of stuff? Right. And the story didn't really always add up, right?
Right, yes. No, the story did not always add up. It would say food and beverages for this charge at this place, and then you would go and find out that it's a Disneyland gift shop, and all the food that they sell is Pez and like a Star Wars themed Rice Krispie treat.
Right, and in the indictment we see that
was
very
in fact
example.
Minnie Mouse.
Right. The allegation is they went and bought a bunch of stuff for themselves or their kids, and then in order to make it seem like a plausible campaign expense, wrote it down as food.
Yeah.
So lying.
Yeah. The allegation.
So along the way, you're writing these stories, doing all this meticulous work, and obviously you're in touch with the Hunter campaign and the Hunter congressional office. And how does that go? So you have to call them up and say, gee, this doesn't make sense. I see discrepancies. Right. Are you lying? What were their answers to those questions?
Well, what we would say is, we see this charge and it looks like it's food and beverage, but we called it and it's a Disneyland gift shop and they only sell these,
right.
a couple edible items. Was there a mistake perhaps? Could you explain why it says food and beverages, what you bought there, to help us understand what was going on? And so we would send those sort of specific questions like that. And then also broader questions like, are you concerned that there's an appearance, of persons and whatnot? And sort of early in the investigation, they would get back to us, but then after a while that kind of ended, and then we just haven't heard from them in a really long time.
But when they would get back to you, like, what would they say, both on the record and off the record, without disclosing details that you might be uncomfortable with?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they try to sort of explain in more detail off the record, when we were just talking, because I would ask follow-up questions and things. But then on the record, they would just send us a statement often, or answer small parts of it, and then we would use that on the record.
Yeah, but then along the way, there came a point when Hunter began trying to belittle or bully you personally. I know I was at a public event where I saw that happen. How did that all go?
Well, at some point he felt that the paper was out to get him, that we had a political agenda, and we're just unfairly attacking him when he had taken responsibility for these charges and things. And I understand how he could feel that way. I don't know how I would feel in his position, I get it. It's just that we would have stopped writing stories when we stopped finding things that were potential violations of the public trust, and we just didn't stop finding them.
Yeah.
So we had to keep writing about them.
I mean, I can say I know in conversations that I had off the record with people close to Hunter, where they were basically saying, oh, you're on the wrong track, this is going nowhere, the congressman is not involved in anything that's really questionable. When I read the indictment, I can see that those very same people told a completely different story to prosecutors. So the lesson as journalists is people lie in a self-serving way and are quite resourceful in trying to manipulate you, either by bullying you or sweet-talking you or intimating that they're sharing with you some truth in order to steer the story in a particular direction.
Yeah, I mean, that does happen, and you know what we do is we just try to verify the facts that we can. We try to listen to people, and we try to see if there's any way that what they're telling us could be true. And you know, after that, we just report. I mean, we just report the facts. We report what is there and black and white on the FPC website and what they have to say, and then we wait.
Yeah. Now, certainly that's not Hunter's take on it. He has come out already.
Right.
This morning, and we heard a little bit this from his father last night. So how is Hunter treating all of this?
I think he's very frustrated. He's treating it as though, you know, he's being attacked like he's the prize for the prosecutors. You know, they want to catch him more than they want to catch anyone else who might be responsible, and that it's politically motivated. They want to drop this, you know, right before the election when he can't take his name off the ballot. And they're sort of looking at it like this is not fair, essentially. But you know, what we do know about federal prosecutors and the FBI and stuff is that they are typically pretty careful before they go to indict a sitting congressman.
Yeah.
They
well, I think the stakes are high for both sides.
The stakes are high for both sides. So you know, I trust that they've done their work.
Well, we'll find out.
I guess we will.
And,
yeah.
Okay, so now what's next?
Next, Hunter he will be in court on Thursday to plead to these crimes, and we will be there, and we will check it out.
Okay, good. Really looking forward to it. A lot of textbook reporting by you, Morgan, so good for you. And if you've got thoughts, jump on here or reach out to Morgan. There's a lot more to find out, I think. Many thanks. See you back here tomorrow.